What would happen if every single Major League Baseball team made the playoffs? Every October is full of surprises for MLB fans, but today we're taking that chaos to a whole new level, creating a 30-team playoff bracket. Teams that fumbled their way out of the postseason will have their chance to get revenge, and there's always a possibility that a rebuilding team shocks a perennial powerhouse. Checking out our bracket, this tournament has been seeded based on end-of-year results, with the top seed team in each conference getting a first-round bye. That will give us a grand total of 14 games in this first round where anything can happen. We are starting this tournament with what should be a close game, with the 8 seed Royals playing host to the 9 seed Rangers, and that's gonna drop in for a base hit. That's a good start for Texas in what should be an interesting game. On one hand, Texas is 2 years removed from a World Series, but on the other hand, the Royals did make the playoffs last year. This should be a double play, but no. A very costly error gives Texas 2 runs, so they're already playing from behind, but here's a diving play at second base and the flip. Those plays could really make the difference in a close-seeded game like this. After a rough inning though, Cole Ragans recovers, so now it's all up to Kansas City's offense to find its way back into this game. Easier said than done. It is already the 4th inning and Jacob deGrom is putting on a clinic, but now in the bottom of the 6th inning, Bobby Witt Jr. is stealing second, and that's the first time they've had a guy in scoring position. This could be the biggest play of the game, with 2 away for deGrom, and facing a full count, Vinny P swings and misses. They strand Bobby Witt on base, but hang on just a second. A solo home run gets them right back in it, but now they're facing the bullpen. This is all going to come down to the bottom of the 9th inning, where Sean Armstrong gets hit by the pitch. Vinny P is on the run. Can Armstrong recover? He does. That means KC is down to their final out, and there it is. That was a very tight first game, but Texas does pull off the upset, so now we're moving to the National League, where the Giants are hosting the Diamondbacks. The Giants are absolutely the favorite here, not only because they're the home team, but Arizona sold Josh Naylor and Eugenio Suarez at the deadline, although the bases are loaded. Despite being a really good pitcher, Logan Webb is in some trouble early on, and this blooping single gives Arizona the early lead. Just like the Rangers, Arizona starts out with 2 runs as the underdog and make that 3. That is not how San Francisco wanted to start out the game, and it really does not help that Zach Gallen just went 1-2-3. Arizona has a chance to seal this one before it even started, but now the bases are loaded. They have a very good chance to get back into this one as Patrick Bailey dribbles us up the middle and scores 2 runs. This is already a better comeback attempt than Kansas City made, as Ramos delivers with a huge single. Chapman comes around and scores the tying run. Just like that, we've got a ball game on our hands, and Arizona's not giving up the momentum. They once again have a man on base, but with 1 out, they turn a double play. So far in both of these games, the defense has really made all the difference, because both of the Rangers' runs in the first game came on a wild throw. After a couple singles though, Arizona's starting to get their momentum back, as that play cannot be made. Logan Webb did not even last 4 innings, as there's a grounder to give Arizona back their lead. We're on pace to start out the video with 2 upsets, especially after another run, and any signs the Giants showed of life on offense is gone. Arizona continues to get on base, and this sacrifice fly puts them up by 4 runs. Despite being the underdogs, Arizona wins this NL West matchup. They have locked in their spot to take on the red-hot Milwaukee Brewers as we set the first matchups of round 2. Now in our next matchup though, we have a real-life playoff team. The Red Sox are led by the electric lefty Garrett Crochet, but early on, Jordan Westburg silences this crowd. It only took 2 batters for Crochet to give up a dinger, and that is not the start Boston wanted. Then on the pitching end of things, Trevor Rogers is holding it down, and this is an absolute nuke from Kobe Mayo. He just sent that one over 450 feet. I have no idea what's going on with Skubal, but he needs to figure it out sooner or later, as Boston's offense is not helping him out. They're definitely in hot water, especially because Trevor Rogers is coming off a really good season. A single in the 4th finally breaks up his perfect game, but right on cue, there is a no-doubter from Trevor Story. Just like that, we have a tie game. We've already seen 3 dingers in a matchup that was supposed to be between 2 electric lefties, but now Colton Cowser makes it number 4. Every single one of these games has been incredibly close so far, as we have another home run. With Trevor Rogers out of the game, this could be what Boston needs to take their first lead and that's gonna be it. After going down 2-0 to start the game, Boston's offense has rallied back as this blooper makes it 5-3. With Garrett Crochet at 112 pitches, it seems he's locked back in, and it seems Boston is not done scoring runs. There's another 2. For the first 3 innings, it looked like the Orioles were gonna pull off the upset, but in the end, Boston hangs on. They could be in line for a wild card rematch against their division rivals. But before we get there, we have another wild card rematch from 2024. Last year, the Padres swept the Braves in 2 games, but this year, Atlanta did not even make the playoffs. Chris Sale is their best chance to win this game, and he gets out of the inning despite a rough start as Bogaerts makes an incredible play. It is still 0-0, but now Sale once again has 2 guys on base, and he's going up against Fernando Tatis. This is a really big moment, but he gets him with the slider, so Atlanta's able to keep this one scoreless as Ozuna delivers their first hit of the game. That is a huge play, but the biggest challenge for Atlanta is gonna be scoring him from second. They're back to the top of the order, but Profar freezes at strike 3, and I think this is the longest we've gone in the video without seeing a run scored. Both pitchers are still going strong through the 5th inning, and it feels like the first team that scores a run will win the game. Atlanta does get 2 on board in the 6th inning, but once again, they cannot score. Now in the same situation though, there's a 3-run shot for Ryan O'Hearn. The trade deadline rental could make all the difference for San Diego as they load up the bases in the 8th, and another run could put this game out of reach, but there's a ground out from their other deadline acquisition. That means they only have a 2-run lead, but right on cue, Kim makes it a bit more interesting. Just like my favorite karaoke song, Atlanta's down to one last breath, but after Suarez walked another man, here is a deep drive into left center from Profar. It will stay in the yard and one-hop the fence for a ground rule double. Right when we thought they were out, the Braves tie the game, and now it's time to see Ronald Acuna Jr. Atlanta's superstar is facing loaded bases with a 1-2 count, and he doesn't want this to go to extras. As a Mariners fan, I'm well aware that extras are a bad place to be in the playoffs, but this game could very well be headed there. However, the Padres have a chance to walk it off, and Arise walks. That will put the winning run on first base, but then Manny Machado grounds into a double play. This has definitely been the best game of the video so far, as both sides are dead even. I did forget to turn off extra inning runner, but Marinaccio delivers 3 Ks, so now the Braves need Pierce Johnson to match that, and I gotta say, that's a really unfortunate name. Regardless, he's faced with 2 outs and also strikes out the side. I gotta be honest with you guys, I just watched the Mariners lose in the 11th inning, and it wasn't exactly a good time, so I'm kinda hoping this one will end sooner rather than later. We are simulating the 12th inning, where the Braves cannot score again, but to be fair, San Diego is not any closer to ending the game. We are entering the 13th inning, where the Braves have not even gotten on base, and Atlanta's on their 4th pitcher of extras, who finally gives up a bomb. Ryan O'Hearn's 2nd dinger of the game wins it for the Padres, and they will move on to likely play the Cubs, but maybe the Pirates if they get lucky. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you know this is one of my favorite videos to make every single year, and I guess this is why. Now we have the 4-seed Yankees up against the Angels. It's gonna take a lot for the Angels to win this game, but Kikuchi locks in, striking out the side. In the 3rd inning, there's still been no action, but that all changes with a dinger from Anthony Volpe. The Yankees go up 1-0, and that is a brutal first mistake for either one of these pitchers. I gotta give credit to Garrett Cole for locking in, because he's definitely been this game's MVP. He's looking for 7 shutout innings, but there's a much needed run. The Yankees ace cracks right at the end of his bid for a flawless start. That means that this one's gonna come down to the bullpens, and there's Mike Trout. He gives them the lead, and then Zach Neto makes it a 2-run performance. Aside from the Volpe home run, this offense has been miserable, but Chisholm Jr. delivers. That'll make things a lot more interesting, and now Cody Bellinger is the game's tying run. Kenley Jansen's trying to make this interesting, but it doesn't help New York when Stanton does that. That is a really irresponsible swing for the veteran, especially facing a 3-1 count. Down to their final out though, there's 2 aboard for Paul Goldschmidt. The Angels are looking for the biggest upset of this video, and Goldschmidt looks at strike 3, and that will do it. Despite being last place in the AL West, the Angels take down a playoff team. A terrible performance from New York gets the Angels to the next round. That could very well be the biggest upset of the video, but now we have the Pirates and the Cubs Cubs, and there's a double from O'Neal Cruz. I will say that having Paul Skeens on the bump should at least make this one a little interesting, as McCutchen flies out deep to left center. Skeens goes 1-2-3, but in the second, Imanaga's in a little trouble. With one away, they desperately need the double play, and that is exactly what they get. That is a huge break for the Cubs. Just like last game though, it's taking a bit of time for the offenses to wake up. We've seen one combined hit through 3 innings of play, but here's 2 walks for the Pirates. This is the best chance they've had to score all game long, but their offense is just not gonna cut it, although a throwing error's gonna score the first run of the game. That is the type of game this has been so far, as the Cubs offense is still really struggling. Skeens is pitching a gem against a top 5 scoring offense, but right as I say that, he allows 3 runners in a row to get on base, and Seiya Suzuki sends this deep into right field for a go-ahead bases clearing double. Just like that, it is 3-1, and this game is completely swung back into Chicago's favor. After that, their offense was unable to do anything else, as Chicago rallies back and advances to the next round. That will officially lock in the first 4 matchups for the second round. Now we're moving on to the next matchup between the 6-seed Tigers and the 11-seed Athletics, and a Kerry Carpenter 2-run double puts the Tigers on top. This Athletics team has a lot of young talent on offense, but they're going up against Tarek Skubal, so after going down by 3 runs early on, things are not looking good for them. This could wind up being the quickest game of the video if they cannot score a run off of Tarek Skubal, and of course, that is much easier said than done. In the top of the 5th, it is still 3-0, and the Athletics only have 1 hit off of Skubal, and this one is not going to drop. He would go 8 scoreless innings against the A's, who then scored 3 more runs, as this version of the Tigers looked like the one we saw in the first half of the season. No drama here, Detroit takes care of business, but maybe the next National League game will be a little bit closer. Hunter Green is on the mound for Cincinnati as Elly De La Cruz puts this inning away. Miami's going up against an offense that ranked 6th in the league in total runs scored, so today they're gonna need the Cy Young version of Sandy Alcantara. In the top of the 3rd, we have still not seen a run score, but Xavier Edwards does steal second base. He becomes this game's first runner in scoring position as Jesus Sanchez gets a hold of one that's got a lot of juice to it and is gone. What a play for the Marlins to go up 2-0. The Reds are in danger of joining the Yankees as the second playoff team eliminated in round 1, but here is an RBI from Jake Fraley. That will make it a 2-1 game, but they miss an opportunity to tie it up with a man on second. That will bring us to the bottom of the 6th, where Tyler Stevenson singles before Steer drives him home. Meanwhile, on the Marlins side of things, they've fallen into a serious slump, but here is a leadoff double off the wall from Connor Norby. That will give Jesus Sanchez another chance to be the hero, and he delivers, driving in the go-ahead run. He has scored all 3 of Cincinnati's runs, but now Stevenson's on second base. This is a big deal for Cincinnati as Spencer Steer singles through the infield to get runners at the corners. With 2 outs though, they need to do it again, and Candelario barely sneaks this through the middle. That will officially tie the game. This game has gone back and forth, with Cincinnati still looking for their first lead of the game, and that will do it. They were down by 1 going into the bottom of the 8th, but find a way to clutch up, although this game is not over yet. An Edwards double will keep them alive, so now it's all up to Connor Norby, who chases this one outside, and that'll do it. By the skin of their teeth, Cincinnati survives, but that was another very entertaining game. Now in our next matchup, we have the highest seed gap yet between the 3-seed Guardians and the 13-seed Twins. Shockingly though, the Twins are off to a fast start with a home run and 2 walks. Tanner Beebe is already in trouble, but does get out of this. But now the Guardians offense needs to lock in, especially after another homer. Just like in real life, the Guardians are on pace to be first-round exits as they cannot get going. There's still a lot of ball to play, but it's very clear that Joe Ryan is the better pitcher in this matchup. That could end up making all the difference today, as the Guardians have 2 hits in 5 innings. They do have a runner on second, but there's another strikeout. Joe Ryan's shutout continues as the Twins could ice this game, but right on cue, here comes Steven Kwan. They finally break through Ryan and now have the tying run on second base. Just like last time though, they're in danger of scoring him, although this single's gonna sneak through the infield. Schneemann is rounding third, headed for home as the throw comes in a bit offline, but that is an incredible adjustment. The combination of a very aggressive decision and an elite tag bag will keep the Twins on top. Ever since giving up those early runs though, I will say the Guardians pitching has been on top of it, and that is the only reason that Cleveland stayed in this game despite their inability to finish. They have another runner on base in the 8th inning, but once again strand him, so now they really need to stop Minnesota, but there's 2 guys on base. Now with 2 away, Byron Buxton can deliver the dagger, and he might have just done exactly that with another run. This 9th inning run is the first time they've scored since the 3rd, and that nearly stays fair. That would have cleared the bases and ended the game, but that went foul by about a millimeter. That's a big break for Cleveland, but it might not matter. They're 1 strike away from being upset by a 14 seed team, and Minnesota has done it. That is another round 1 shakeup with our second playoff team being eliminated. So now I'm curious if the Nationals stand a chance against the Dodgers, although LA starts out very strong. They lead 1-0, and then in the next inning, the Nationals leave a runner on base. They're unable to answer, so now the Dodgers can score another run. And they did not make enough noise against the Dodgers as Teoscar Hernandez hits his 2nd homer. After that Guardians game, there was absolutely no drama in this one, as the defending champs take their spot in the 2nd round. Now in our next set of matchups, we have 2 teams that didn't make the playoffs in the 7 seed Astros and the 10 seed Rays. The Astros are looking for revenge after being the first team out in the American League, but Tampa Bay will strike first in the 4th. That was a 2-out RBI single against Brown, but here comes Christian Walker. In just 1 swing, he erases Tampa Bay's lead, who have 2 on in the 7th. With 2 away though, they need a big play from Chandler Simpson, who looks like he flies out, except the right fielder literally fell asleep, allowing that one to drop in there. I don't know if he lost it in the sun, but now Yandy Diaz is gonna make him pay even more. The inning should have ended in a 1-1 tie, but instead the Rays are able to rally with a cherry on top from Junior Caminero. That 6-run inning from the Rays was more than enough to bury the Astros. And speaking of collapses, next up we have the New York Mets, who are already off to a bad start. On June 12th, this team had the best record in baseball, but somehow, someway, played their way out of the postseason. In this video, they have a chance to redeem themselves from one of the biggest collapses in MLB history as they tie it up in the 4th. Then in the 5th inning, Brandon Nimmo leads off with a home run, and it seems they are now officially locked in. They started out down 3-0, but have now rallied back with 6 unanswered runs. On the other hand though, after putting up 3 runs in the 1st inning, this Cardinals offense has been dead silent. At the end of the day, New York was the better team, and maybe they're on the upswing after their historic collapse. With that, we are now down to our final 2 games of the 1st round between the 2 seeds and the 15 seeds. The Mariners just won their division for the first time since I was literally in diapers, but they're in a bit of trouble early on. Their breakout ace Brian Wu has the bases loaded, but does manage to get out of it. However, their offense is off to a slow start, and there's a dinger. So far, Seattle has just 2 hits against Shane Smith, and this is not how they wanted this to go. Meanwhile, Chicago has had no problem breaking through Brian Wu, and all things considered, the Mariners are lucky to only be down by a run. If they're gonna get back in this though, they need something from the top of their lineup, but go 1-2-3. Losing to the White Sox would be the most Mariners thing ever, and you've gotta be kidding me. That's 3 runs. Losing to the White Sox after winning the division is probably the most Mariners thing ever, and they are now just 2 outs away from completely losing this game. Julio hits into a double play. I'm trying to hide the bias here, but as a Mariners fan, I'm completely devastated. We could see 2 15 seed teams sneak into the 2nd round as the Phillies have just 2 hits on the game. I don't know what's going on with the lack of offense, especially from the playoff teams, but it seems this tournament has completely turned baseball on its head. That was another scoreless inning for the Rockies, who might have just sealed the game with a 3-run bomb. It is 5-0, and it's gonna take a lot more than 1 run for the Phillies to come back, and while they're fighting, it might be too little too late. Victor Vodkin is in to close this game out as Philadelphia gets runners at the corners. Philadelphia could really use a drive to left from Castellanos. As he's down to his final strike, the windup, the pitch, and he got him. Say it with me, the Colorado Rockies are moving on. You could not have drawn up a more insane end to round 1 as the round 2 brackets are fully set. Starting off round 2, we have the Blue Jays coming off a first-round bye. The 1 seed in the American League is coming off of a first-round bye, going up against a Rangers team that barely won in the first round. If the Rangers want to pull off the upset, they're gonna need to contain this high-powered offense, but right off the bat, there is a leadoff home run from George Springer. Between the two pitchers in the matchup, Jacob deGrom has the better overall, but so far he is not looking like it, and right on cue with one away, Will Wagner has a 2 RBI double. I feel like we haven't seen too much offense so far, but the 1 seed Blue Jays are looking as advertised as Peterson responds. That is a huge deal for the Rangers, as they needed something to get momentum back on their side, especially considering they're on the road against the 1 seed, although Santander strikes right back. A 2-run shot makes it 5-1 as Texas then strands 2 runners on base, and the Blue Jays offense is showing no signs of slowing down. After sitting the first round out, Toronto comes back and takes care of business, becoming the first team to punch their ticket into round 3. That was an impressive performance, but we're gonna see if the other 1 seed will be just as dominant. Milwaukee looked unbeatable in the second half of the season, so I'm interested to see if they can really win this whole thing as they start out very strong. Just like Toronto, they start out with a leadoff home run, and early on, Freddie Peralta is locked in. Now the pressure is all on Arizona to get back in this game as there's a base hit, but they've shown no signs of breaking through Peralta. Now in the bottom of the third, Milwaukee has a chance to extend their lead, and there is a perfect bunt from Caleb Durbin. He is safe. That bunt was definitely a surprise as he now takes second base. Then a couple at bats later, with a chance to extend their lead, Bryce Terang drives in 2 runs. That was a massive 2-out double, and then right after that, William Contreras goes deep. That gives them a 5-run lead in the 3rd inning as they dominate Arizona. There were a bunch of upsets in the first round, but so far in the seconds, both 1 seeds have moved on. But next up, we have the Red Sox and the Angels. Los Angeles was a big surprise in round 1 as they were able to upset the 4 seed Yankees. While they did make a statement though, they have to go up against another playoff team in the Red Sox. Boston is knocking on the door in the second, but Kikuchi comes through, so we're still scoreless as Crochet is definitely struggling. He just walked 2 batters in a row, and now facing Mike Trout, there's trouble with the double play, and he is safe. One of the best pitchers in the American League now has the bases loaded, and Nolan Schanuel is able to drive in the first 2 runs. This is not the Crochet that Boston thought they were getting, and the defense continues to let him down. That was the second misfielded double play from Boston to load the bases, but this time they get out of it, so after all of that, it's only 2-0. Boston needs to find some offense though, especially after that solo shot from Taylor Ward. The Angels are on their way to beating another playoff team, especially after a strikeout and then another run. They have shut out the Red Sox, only allowing 5 hits, and now in the 9th, they close them out. That is a 6-0 victory as the Angels once again shocked the world. The 13 seed underdog is officially in round 3, and I don't think anyone could have expected that. Now in the National League side though, we should have a pretty close matchup between the 4 seed Cubs and the 5 seed Padres. I want to say that home field advantage could make the difference, but so far in this video, it's kind of felt like the opposite. On the road, the Padres are looking to strike first, but unfortunately leave a runner on second base. So far in this game, the Padres have gotten a few guys on base, but ultimately have not been able to capitalize. Meanwhile, the Cubs offense have not done much, but there's a hit by pitch. This could be their chance to finally get something going, but this should be a double play that Swanson actually beats out. That should keep them alive as there's 1 away for Shaw, who keeps this fair down the line. Now we're gonna see if Chicago can score the first run of this game, but Ian Happ cannot get it done. We are officially 5 innings into a game that so far has not shown a single ounce of offense, and so far this is feeling like watching the Tigers and the Mariners. Both pitchers are still locked in, and I'm kind of surprised that both of these offenses have not done anything. It is very likely that the first team to score a run is gonna win this game, as there's still nothing in the 7th. Now in the bottom of the 8th, the Cubs strand a man on second, and we are still seeing deuces in the 9th inning. And now with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th, with a full count, Kyle Tucker finally makes good contact into right field, sending this one deep and over the fence for a walk-off home run. With only 3 total hits on each side, I thought we were going to extra innings for sure, but one of the Cubs' offensive stars comes through with a walk-off home run. They made the home crowd wait, but that is a satisfying ending to this game for Chicago. They move on, and they're taking on Milwaukee in the next round. Next up, we have another playoff matchup between two teams that know each other very well. The race for the AL Central Division title was certainly exhilarating, and I'm expecting this game to be no different. The Tigers got a hit on their first at-bat of the game, but the Guardians got out of it and now get this one to drop. That will give them the game's first runner in scoring position, but Skubal gets out of it. Thanks to their ace, the Tigers won this matchup in real life, but the Tigers' offense is once again not helping them out. We are still scoreless in the 6th inning, at least until a Gleyber Torres 0-out, bases-clearing double. History could be on its way to repeating itself, especially after the Guardians get caught stealing. That will keep Detroit's shutout going as they score again, and the Guardians are now down to their last chance. They get a solo home run, but in the end, they fall to Tarek Skubal and their division rival. We have now decided 3 out of the 4 American League teams that will survive, with the final spot coming down to the 10-seed Rays and the 15-seed White Sox. On the National League side, though, we have the Dodgers versus the Reds, and while this is a base hit from Matt McClain, he is not going to stop at first base, rounding for second, and that was a mistake. That is not a good start for Cincinnati, but fortunately for them, Hunter Green came to play as a man's taking off for second. That's a perfect throw. That means we are still scoreless going into the 4th inning of play, but Cincinnati finally has a runner in scoring position where with 2 outs, Tyler Stevenson drives this deep into center field. Edman going back, it is gone. Cincinnati strikes first against the Dodgers. The Dodgers could become the next upset of this video, although with a man on third, they finally tie it up. That is a huge home run from Edman, but the Reds strike right back. Cincinnati takes the momentum right back. The Reds have a chance to shock baseball, knocking off the defending World Series champs, and in the 8th inning, that is a 3-run home run. This video's chaos continues as the Reds win 7-2 over LA, knocking one of the heavy favorites out of the tournament. We have already seen some insane results in this video, but nothing was crazier than the 2 worst teams in the tournament moving on in round 1. We will see both of those teams to close out the 2nd round as Chicago's trying to score the first run of this game, and this blooper sneaks by the center fielder. They have the bases loaded with just 1 away, and facing a full count, Luis Robert Jr. strikes out. Despite being in hot water, the Rays have found their way out of it as Vargas flies out, but they have not been able to do anything against Shane Smith. The Rays get runners at the corners, but Smith is still dealing. He went 6 innings, only allowing 3 hits to this Rays team, and we're still waiting for the first run to be scored in the bottom of the 8th. It looks like we're going to extra innings, as this has been even more boring than the Padres and Cubs game. This could very well be a 1-run victory as Chicago strikes first, so now all of the pressure is on the Rays, as here's a fly out to Caminero to advance the runner on second to third. That will get them a little bit closer as Brandon Lowe gets beamed, and after a full 9 innings of no runs being scored, it is now a tie game. It would be insane if Chicago made the final 8, but Tampa Bay is trying to walk this off. The bases are loaded with 2 outs, but Chicago is gonna live to see another day. Tampa Bay choked away the chance to win this game, and now Chicago rallies to go ahead. Then down to their final out, Tampa Bay has their backs against the wall once again. Chicago is trying to do the impossible, and there is a slider to get the final strike as they win this one in extra innings and move on to round 3. There's officially a 15-seed team in the Elite 8 with a chance to add 1 more. The Rockies may have beat the Phillies, but they're off to a rough start against New York. The Mets scored a run in the bottom of the 1st, and now with 2 guys on, look at that absolute doink. Now with the bases loaded though, New York cannot score again. The Rockies are still surviving, but need to see some offense, especially because we all know their bullpen is not very good. They have 2 guys on in the 5th inning, but once again, leave runners on base. That will give New York a chance to put this game away, but right on cue, there is Hunter Goodman. The Rockies rally with 2 runs to take a late lead, so now New York desperately needs a run if they want to stay alive in this one. They got a double from Lindor, but go down swinging, so it's all going gonna come down to the 9th inning where Colorado extends its lead. They beat the Phillies in round 1, and now down to their final out, here's a flyout from Tyrone Taylor to officially move both 15 seed teams on to round number 3. Just like in round 1, we saw that anything can happen as 5 out of the 8 games played were all upsets, and this third round could be even crazier. We are starting things off with a bang as the Angels are looking to continue their Cinderella run against the 1 seed. They have the bases loaded against Toronto, but cannot deliver a run. But as we saw in their last few games, Yusei Kikuchi is getting the job done. It has been a back and forth pitching duel, but now in the bottom of the 4th, the Blue Jays have a man on second, and Varsho finally scores the first run of this game. They now have all the momentum as they're trying to avoid getting upset by the 13 seed Angels. As we saw in the first 2 rounds though, you cannot count Los Angeles, especially with a 1-run lead. They start out with a single and a walk, getting 2 guys on before Trout beats out the double play, so the inning stays alive and now they load the bases. This is their chance to get back in it, but there's a freeze for strike 3. It remains a 1-run game in the top of the 8th as the Blue Jays offense has also stalled out, although Varsho scores again. The Angels are down to their last chance with a 2-run deficit as the Blue Jays are trying to end their run. They're just 1 out away from the semifinals, but there's no way. Zach Neto drives this deep into right center field, sending 2 Blue Jays back to the wall, and it is over for a home run. Down to their final out, the Angels take the lead 3-2. They have done it again and are now on their way to upsetting the 1 seed, but with the tying run on first, it is not over for Toronto, especially after Springer gets him to 3rd. That is not what the Angels want to see facing Vlad Jr., as Jansen is run into some trouble, but this stays fair down the line to the 3rd baseman. The throw to first is in time, securing the final out. The Los Angeles Angels have now upset 3 playoff teams, securing their spot in the semis, and their latest victim was the best the American League had to offer. At least in this game, a playoff team is guaranteed to survive, and while that does sound crazy to say, in the context of this video, it actually is very relevant. We've already seen more non-playoff teams take down playoff teams than I ever expected, but it seems the 1 seed Brewers are trying not to repeat the same fate as the Blue Jays. 2 runs in the 2nd inning while Peralta is shutting their offense down. The Cubs offense only has 1 hit on the day, and there's a home run from Churio. That will put them up by 4 runs and make the chances of a comeback very slim, but with runners at the corners in the 6th inning, Seiya Suzuki comes up huge. That will get Chicago back in the game as they contain the Brewers offense. That means it is still anyone's game, and now in the top of the 8th inning, Miguel Amaya comes up clutch, tying it up. Right after we saw the 1 seed Blue Jays go out, the Brewers could be following them if they don't get something together, as the Cubs have all the momentum going into extra innings. With 2 away in the 10th though, there's a strikeout. That will give Milwaukee a chance to walk off this game, and with a full count and 2 gone, Terang gets it done. The 1 seed Brewers survive in walk-off fashion, and they will join the Angels in the semifinals. Now for our final game of the quarterfinals though, remember that we have both 15 seeds. You would think that Tarek Skubal against the worst team in the American League would be a gimme, but Vargas went deep and Shane Smith is dealing. So far, he has only given up 1 hit against the Tigers, which is absolutely insane. The White Sox ace is going toe-to-toe with Skubal, and if the Tigers cannot do anything against the bullpen, this one is over. Just like the Angels, the White Sox have had an unbelievable run and could make their way into the semifinals. With Meadows on second, it all comes down to 1 more out, and very fittingly, Kerry Bonds is at the plate, but he swings through a curveball, and that is gonna do it. The 15 seed White Sox once again pull out the victory and are one of 2 American League teams remaining. This American League bracket has been nothing short of completely cracked. However, now it's time for the final game of the round. The Rockies have the chance to give us the impossible of 2 15 seed teams in the semifinals, but the Reds are not gonna let that happen easily. They scored 3 runs and Hunter Green is delivering, and after a couple more runs, Cincinnati made this a quick game. That will officially set the final Final Four, as on the American League side, we have a 13 seed and a 15 seed, while there are two actual playoff squads in the National League. If you told me we'd be seeing one of the Angels or the White Sox in the World Series, I would have called you insane, but both of these teams deserve to be here, beating a combined 5 playoff teams on their way to the semis. Early on though, the Angels are leading 1-0. He would get 2 strikeouts and then strike out the side, and honestly I have to say that Kikuchi is the biggest reason that the Angels are here. Him and Shane Smith have both been really good, but now with the bullpens in, this is where things could get interesting, as there's a home run from the White Sox followed by another. In just one inning, this game is completely shifted as Shane Smith is still in the 7th inning. After the runner tagged to third though, they take him out of the game, and immediately the bullpen gives up the tying run. The toilet bowl is tied for the first time since the first inning, and a wild pitch got the go-ahead runner to third before Mike Trout drives him in. That would give the Angels a late lead as Jansen's trying to close it out, but that's a solo shot. The Angels' 9th inning magic against the Blue Jays has come back around, as with 2 outs and 2 on base, we are going to extra innings. It is so fitting that a game between these 2 underdog teams is going to extra innings, but after the Angels blank Chicago in the top of the 10th, they end it rather quickly with an RBI single, winning this game. The 13 seed Angels have done it, securing their spot in the World Series, and no matter what, they're gonna have to face one more playoff team. You gotta think the Brewers are the favorites here, but the Reds go up 1-0 early on. With 2 away in the first though, they still have 2 guys on board, but cannot score them. Scoring another run would have been huge, but of course Hunter Green is dealing, although he gives up a 2-run shot followed by another. That is gonna make a comeback extremely unlikely, but there's a dinger from Noelvi Marte. That is absolute cinema, as just 1 inning ago, the Brewers had a 4-1 lead. Unfortunately for Cincinnati though, Hunter Green had carried them through the rest of the rounds, and he is already out of the game in the 5th inning. Another home run means that the Reds have another 3-run lead to overcome, although it's becoming less likely as they score again. They need 5 runs in the top of the 9th, which is not gonna happen, so we have officially solidified our final matchup. A 1 seed versus a 13 seed is the best underdog story since Dodgeball, and I'm excited to see how it's gonna go. The Angels are representing the American League after finishing in last place in the AL West, but if they're gonna win it all, they have to take down their second 1 seed of the playoffs in the Milwaukee Brewers. They have a runner on third, but with 2 away, Peralta gets out of it. They miss out on the chance to strike first, but Yusei Kikuchi is doing his thing once again, and now in the 4th inning, they're gonna get 2 on once again. Neither offense has gotten anything going so far, as once again, they blow it, and facing a team like the Brewers, the Angels cannot afford to make those mistakes. Milwaukee's looking for their first World Series in franchise history and are not gonna give up easily. With a man on second though, Kikuchi will retire the side. This man has been so clutch through the entire playoffs, as it's still 0-0. After he got pulled out of the game though, Luis Garcia is in danger of giving up a run, as this single should send the man on second all the way home, but the throw comes in, he is not going to make it. The Brewers get aggressive on the bases, just trying to score the game's first run. This has been an insane World Series with 0 runs scored through 8 innings, and we could be going to extras. We are in the bottom of the 8th as they hit Bryce Terang, putting 2 aboard. Could we finally see the first run of this game with 2 aboard? That is an inning-ending pop-up. This Milwaukee offense has been electric, but for some reason, they cannot score on the Angels. Now the Angels have a chance to repeat their 9th inning magic. Joe Adele drives this deep into left center field. There is no way. They did it against the 1 seed Blue Jays, and now they do it again against Milwaukee with the World Series on the line. How do you even put this into words? This is not hacked, it's not scripted, and it's not modded. The 13 seed Angels might be winning the World Series. In order to get here, they had to take down 3 playoff teams, and they are 1 strike away from beating their 4th. Joseph Ortiz is 3 for 3 on the day, facing a full count. Here is the swing. It is soft contact into right center field, and the Angels have done it. What an end to an insane video, and all I can say is I didn't see that coming. Drop a like and subscribe, and as always, click right here to see more content.